Bruins Beat is brought to you by PrizePicks and the Game Time app.
And welcome into the Bruins Beat, presented by PrizePicks. Go use that promo code CLNS to get $50 back when you play just $5, and are presented by Game Time. Go use that promo code CLNS to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. I'm Evan Marinofsky. That's Conor Ryan. Connor, what is up?
Evan, doing well. How you doing?
Doing great. Doing great. I want to start here. I want to praise the Bruins. I want to praise the Bruins, Connor. We haven't done this in a long time. I want to praise them for something. And that is, what an elite tanking weekend. Just picturesque. Picturesque. I think the 5-1 win gave people a little excitement. Little like,
Broke up the losing streak. You not like set a new franchise record, right? Like you didn't have to like get to that point, and then you get kind of back on track in terms of making the most of a crappy season, right? Like I think it was Ty Anderson who tweeted it out late on Sunday. It's like, if we go through this miserable year, especially this last month, and then you get a heater at the end of the year and you fall to like 8 or 9, damn it, right? Like again, if you're going to max out on a year that's just gone wrong and gone off the rails so many times, the one consolation, and again, I think the Bruins have made other moves to accelerate the ongoing daunting retool they have to do. But if you escape with a top 5 pick, that you're cashing in and making the most of the hand that you've been dealt this year. So
completely. And they did it. And there was, I was nervous on Sunday going into the game against Buffalo because I'm like, it would be so like them to, to go on that 10-game losing streak and then to, at the 11th hour, go on a winning streak to end the year, win your final 6 games, and suddenly, as you said, your pick 8 or 9. And it's like, what was this all for? Well, trading Marchand, trading Carlo, trading Coyle, Frederick. By the way, Frederick is like literally, as we just about to start, Frederick re-injured his ankle.
Yeah.
And he's out. So
that did not look good in that one game he played. I think he only played like 7 minutes too. And he was, I think, in a top 6 role because Edmonton's kind of banged up. Did not look right at all. So that's one where you're kind of looking across the board, Evan. And again, the Bruins made all these trades to make made the team a lot worse. You don't have NHL bodies, but also quite a few of the guys they moved haven't necessarily moved the needle for their new teams, at least yet. So you're, again, taking advantage of, if you're going to sell off pieces and rip off the Band-Aid, the Bruins have done it, and they haven't really paid for it yet in terms of those guys thriving in their new spots, at least not yet.
Yeah, Ty Anderson tweeted out the Notes app. I always love Ty's Notes app must be so funny. Just like all the things, just Bruins, terrible Bruins stats, like going right down the line. Like, usually for me, it's like grocery items. I was doing groceries and it'll be like 10 things, or it'll be like passwords and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But he's just got Bruin stats, out the wazoo in his Notes app. But
they're all miserable. They're all detailing just what a terrible season this has been.
He's got to delete them all when the season ends, I would hope.
Yes.
But he tweeted out what everyone has done since they left the Bruins. And really the only one that's done anything is Carlo. Carlo's been playing on the top pair with Morgan Rielly in Toronto. He's been solid. Everybody else, not much. You haven't got a ton from Coyle. You haven't got really anything from Brazeau or Frederick. Marchand, I think, has an assist in like 6 games?
An assist in his first game, and after that, he hasn't really done much of anything. Floater actually hasn't really playing that well over the last couple of weeks. But yeah, like Coyle is the only one where it's, again, his value maybe isn't always mapped out based on just production, even though I think he just recently had a 3-point game. And I think both him and Carlo, for what their roles will be with their respective teams, I think they'll be contributors. Brazeau seems like that is a sunk cost, at least so far. You look at, Frederick's just banged up, which is unfortunate for him when I think they were expecting him to be a missing piece for that team going into the playoff run. So you hope he gets healthy. Then I think the interesting one is just Marchand, right? Like, I'm not going to put it past Marchand to ramp things up, especially when you get to the playoffs, but so far hasn't been able to really produce yet and give Florida that extra boost that you want. It's almost like for the Bruins, the one guy you probably hope does well is Marchand, because the more he plays and the more that the Panthers go on a run, the higher your chances of getting that first round pick and 27 whenever it is. So
yeah, or I think it might be 28, and it's just
yeah,
I don't even know what.
I believe it's 2027 conditional second.
Okay, God, just it feels like forever. We'll be there in a bit.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's been a good thing, and I think the tanking since the deadline has been incredible. I mean, just the complete fall off, and we've talked about this every episode where it sort of worked. And this weekend was sort of the personification of it. You actually get a good win against Carolina. You look good. We'll get into that. We haven't talked about many good wins this year. We'll dive into that. And then Buffalo, you're up 2-0, and the tank commences, and you find a way to lose 6-3, and like. And I agree with you that, I think everyone has been through this year. I don't think anybody wants to go back through this. I don't think anybody wants to come out of here with the 8th or 9th pick. So this is the price you pay. And this will, the reward will be felt in June at the draft and in the next couple years as you sort of watch these guys develop. But as for this weekend, there were some positives on the ice to take away. There were some good things. We're not gonna go super deep on drafts or on the draft. We're not gonna say, well, this week we've added a 4th center to the mix in the first round. We have a long time to do that. But against the Hurricanes, Geeky, Lindholm, and Pastrnak were together. Each had 5 points. Pastrnak had a hat trick. I keep going back to just how good Pastrnak has been this year. 97 points, 40 goals, 4th in the league in points. I think he's 5th in goals. He is, I'm not saying he should win the Hart. Like they're, Draisaitl, McKinnon, Hellebuck, whatever. Like they're on better teams. I think we can all agree with that. But we said this a couple weeks ago, and I mean it even more today. How does he not get votes? Like you look at who he's elevating. I mean, he's turned Morgan Geekie into a 30-goal scorer. He's one off 30 goals, 51 points. Like Zacha, Lindholm worked with him this weekend. Lindholm had a goal against Buffalo and 5 points against Carolina. Like I Pastrnak, to me, if anyone comes out of this season with a big plus next to their name, it's Pastrnak.
Yeah, without a doubt. And that's not even factoring that he had a pretty slow start to the year as well. So like for him to kick it into high gear and especially just elevate the talent around him. The fact that he's got almost 100 points and barring something crazy, he will have 100 points before the season's over with this roster around him. When you look at also just how bad the power play has been. And I think that's the impressive thing is it's not like he's a power play merchant or it's, a 50-50 split even. No, like it's all even strength play. And it just shows you, I think, how far Pasternak's game has developed. Because, early on, he sets himself up as a pure goal scorer, a weapon on the power play. And every year it just feels like he's taking another step forward, right? Like you look at where he was 2 years ago in 22-23, where he finally breaks through the 100-point season and feels like he's a franchise guy, but he's still got the Bergeron, Krejci, all those guys with him. I'm not saying that he wasn't a key piece. At that point, he was kind of the line driver, but also had great personnel around him. You go from that to last year where you lose Bergeron and Krejci, and he still has, the year that he has. And then you go to this year where it's even the cupboard's even more barren, and he's continuing to play at this level and lead what has been a tough season, right? Like, and again, we talked about his standing as a potential captain, but in a year where nothing has gone right, where you don't have kind of your other de facto leader at this point in Charlie McAvoy, you don't have another established veteran in Hampus Lindholm as well. You're kind of on an island with a lot of new faces, younger players, guys that are just trying to fight and try to find their feet at this stage of the season. And he's been leading the way, staying positive, even like the Capitals game last week where they come up short, but had a good effort. And he's trying to focus on the positives there. And there's few to kind of draw from in a season like this. It's been impressive, just I think his development, both as a leader and even just his overall game. Like if you have another star player or two and your power play is, not saying you need to be top 5 like it was in their heyday when you had Bergeron and, Krug and all these other players, but we're talking like 120 point season for Pastrnak at this point, if not more, right? Like, and the one thing that I think it should be a positive for the Bruins is that if David Pastrnak can do this with this team, where the power play is as poor as it is and the supporting cast is this bad, you can imagine it probably only goes up from here. You assume, you hope, with the roster. Like, it can't get any worse than the way they're playing right now with the amount of AHL level guys and guys that probably aren't going to be on this team next year. So as you continue to build, and it's not going to be done in 1 year or 2 years or anything like that, but if you have a guy as talented and as gifted as David Pastrnak stapled on your top line, you're going to have some production there. You're going to have a guy that is showing that he can lead both on the ice and off the ice. And as you're trying to kind of go through this next stage in your retool, and it's pretty scary in terms of what the next steps are, what you need to do, having a franchise transformative player like Pastrnak playing at this level maybe just alleviates some of that concern. Because if you're playing like this, you're going to have a monster up front in your lineup for years to come. And it just shows just how talented he is.
And that's, to me, that's the biggest reason why you can't waste his prime. You can't. This is not a guy you just deal away and get a bunch of picks for, or you'll see the occasional fan on Twitter or talk radio say, "Oh, blow it all up, trade Pastrnak and restart this whole thing." It's like, no, this is a guy that you spend decades trying to get. You spend forever trying to get a goal scorer, well-rounded offensive guy like this, and we're seeing him morph into a leader. We knew he could score a lot of goals, and starting last year, he turned into an elite setup man. That's continued this year. I mean, you see some of the passes he makes, and just the offense he creates on his own. I mean, obviously there was the tap in, out of midair off of Jacob Slavin against Carolina, but there was also that spinorama goal where he just turns from the side of the net and fires it in, and 8 points over the weekend and again, some will say, "Oh, that's meaningless games. So what? There's no pressure." It's also like hard to get up for those games. You're eliminated. You're gone. You're done. Like, the season's a wash. A lot of your friends have been traded. Guys you've been on the team with for forever are gone. Coyle, Marchand, Carlo, Frederick, and still to produce at this rate. And that's why I keep going back to their plan this offseason, in that you're not going to bottom out. You shouldn't bottom out. You have David Pastrnak. You have one of the 5 best offensive players in the league, and you have McAvoy in back. You have Swayman in back. Like, you hope that they can rebound next season. And that's why, to me, you can't waste his prime. There was another encouraging development this weekend, and it has to do with Pastrnak. But first, our friends at PrizePicks. Springtime is here, Connor, and baseball season is officially underway. Don't miss your chance to add your favorite players from the diamond in your PrizePicks lineup, whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, or first inning runs. Take your pick of more or less for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Today on PrizePicks, you can mix and match player projections from different sports. Combine your favorite baseball players with players from basketball, hockey, esports, and much more. So if you've got 2 games you really like in a single day, and it's baseball and it's hockey, you can combine them. That's always fun. The second half of the basketball season is here as well, and the push to the playoffs is heating up on PrizePicks, the best place to cash in on your favorite sports. Obviously, the Celtics are marching hard towards the playoffs. Bruins-wise, Geeky and Pastrnak continue to produce. I'll give you that. And the Red Sox, Wilyer Abreu does not stop hitting. And neither Alex Bregman's been on a tear of late at Fenway. And I think he's going to abuse the Green Monster wall. So I think those are some good ones this upcoming week, because the Red Sox are at home for most of it. So download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. Run your game over at PrizePicks. So
I was going to say, Evan, I was worried at the Red Sox game. I was worried you're going to get like a baseball to your face in the Green Monster.
I was going to mention this with Game Time, but we can do it now. Yeah, I was in the Monster for
you were on top of the Monster. You were not inside doing that. You would have been very busy switching the runs right on the Green Monster if that was the case.
That's right. I would have been. But yeah, I went there Sunday, and I was there for opening day as well. It's been a fun start. Good games to be at. Beautiful day on opening day. I mean, it was like beautiful. 65 and sunny. Felt like it was 100. I was like in the Truly deck, and sun's beating down on me. And typically you wouldn't want that. Like, I kind of want to be in the shade. After the winter we had, I will stand there with a coat and jeans on and take this. I think I got a little sunburn on my forehead.
There you go.
So it was terrific. And then it was a little chilly on Sunday night, but not terrible. not awful.
Makes it better when your team you're rooting for is hitting the piss out of the ball. So
yes, I don't mind that at all. Red Sox so far have been worth it. Been a fun product to watch. One positive development from the weekend: Elias Lindholm, someone we've been mostly negative on. I think when we kind of do our season in review, we'll be negative on him again. He did not have a good year, and I don't think anything over the next couple weeks will change that. But a positive development from the last weekend: he starting to work with Pastrnak, which is what we thought at the beginning of the year. We thought, okay, Lindholm will come in, be the old Patrice Bergeron, light, give you something. He'll work with Pastrnak. And that was sort of abandoned at the start of the year. Those two didn't really work together. Lindholm wasn't really elevating him offensively. They couldn't really find him. Pastrnak couldn't really find Lindholm open in front of the net too often. And that changed. Lindholm scored against Buffalo. He put up 5 points against Carolina, had 4 assists and a goal as well. Can we take this to next season? Can you say, hey, they're working, maybe they can do it next year? I have a tough time believing that. I think you still keep Zacha and Geeky with Pastrnak next year, but is there any hope?
I mean, you hope so if you're the Bruins, right? And again, you've got Geeky, Zacha, Pastrnak as kind of you know what you're expecting out of that group, and I think that helps. But I also think when you're looking at next season, and we've already talked about this, but if you're going to add talent this summer, which you clearly need to do, trying to find like another top 6 center is easier said than done. There's really not a lot of guys in free agency. We don't know what the trade, scenario, the trade market's going to look like, but there's not like a set. It's not like last year, right, where before the offseason began, we're like, Elias Lindholm, sign that man, right? Like and there was other guys that were in the mix too that maybe didn't have the same pedigree, at least at the time, as Lindholm. You had like Sean Monahan, Chandler Stevenson, all those kind of guys. Like you at least had options. If you wanted to add a second, third line center, you could. It's not nearly as appealing this year. So if you're the Bruins and you're just trying to add the best talent available, which probably means adding talent at the wing, and you wait to see next year what your center group can do as you've maybe drafted a top 5 pick, and you let that kind of marinate as it does. If you're just trying to find something internally, if Lindholm can find anything with Pastrnak, you will take it, right? Like you just need someone that can prove that he can not even drive play, but can ride shotgun with a guy like David Pastrnak. And it did not work at the start of the year. And that was kind of one of the main things early on that felt like everything was kind of going off the rails, because I think the Bruins and, myself probably assumed the same thing. If David Pastrnak can drive play with Zacha and Eric Halla and all these players, and Elias Lindholm, who's got an 80-point season on his resume, yeah, he can do that. He doesn't have to drive play. Just go to the front of the net.
I was right there with you, brother. I was right there with you on that.
And it didn't work out. Now, I don't know what has changed since then. I don't know if it's, I want to say early on, it was a lot of Marchand, I think, with Pastrnak and Lindholm. I forget kind of what the lines exactly were. But whatever it is with, whatever it was with the way that they're playing now, whether that's just Lindholm simplifying his game, whether it's Geeky, who, as much as we talk about Geeky, benefiting from playing with Pastrnak, I think he also does a lot of small things well that complement playmakers, especially someone like David Pastrnak. So he's making an impact, and it's clicking right now. So again, can you, off of this essentially meaningless stretch, right? Can you look at something and expect it to carry into next year? Probably not. You hope so, because again, I don't see a scenario where, barring a crazy trade, that they're going to have another legit top 6 center come in. So if Lindholm can find his game, flush out this and take a step forward, I think that is something where he can take a step forward and do something to help out your team.
Well, I think you also have to wonder at center, because next year you have Zacha, you'll have Mittelstadt, you'll have Elias Lindholm. Do you run with those guys straight down the middle, and Lindholm is your 3C? Does Mittelstadt move to the wing and Lindholm is your second center, and you put him with Mittelstadt and maybe Mitch Marner? Do you move Zacha down and Lindholm up with Pastrnak? These are not champagne problems. These are not amazing problems to have. It's not like, oh, do you start Linus Ullmark or Jeremy Swayman last year? But I agree with you in that I don't think help at center is coming this offseason in the moment. I think they're going to draft centers, and future help down the road will certainly be there. But you will not have, they're going to go sign a huge fish on day one in free agency and their number one center is locked up. I mean, that will not happen this offseason. And again, those big seismic NHL trades that can sort of change franchises, you don't see those coming from a mile away. Those happen in the blink of an eye. A contract negotiation goes bad, something happens, and suddenly someone's on the market and they want to come to Boston. Then maybe there's that. But I agree with you. I don't see help coming. And in terms of next year, and I think you and I will probably spend a lot of time on this summer, it's just sort of, does Lindholm find a way? Can Lindholm fit in the top 6 next season? I don't know. I have not seen enough from him this year that makes me confident that he can do that, that he can elevate guys around him, because for a long time he wasn't. And I think, if he can play with Pastrnak, that's great. But can you expect him to get over 50 points in a season? I mean, that's what you really need, right? Like when we talk about, like last week we talked about guys going back to the mean. Elias Lindholm has been his worst self this season. His worst case scenario has been this season. What is his journey back to the mean? Is that 50 points? That 55 points? I think that's going to be the key next season to determining where he fits in the lineup based on their first 20 games next season. I want to talk about some other stuff. Geeky, some stuff on the back end. Also, I do want to touch on Ovechkin. That was huge.
What happened?
I don't know. I don't know what happened. They've been talking about him so much. What could he possibly done?
Yeah.
But anyways, our friends over at Game Time, Connor, it is springtime, as PrizePicks let us know. But springtime is big for Game Time because there's so much happening right now. You got the Red Sox, as we talked about. If you're on the Green Monster, you gotta be aware.
Head on a swivel.
Head on a swivel. No balls got hit towards me. I was kind of disappointed. I was like, because I'm like, I'm up here. What if it gets hit? Do I try to catch it barehanded? Do I move out of the way and try to go for rebound? I would not have done the first part. Don't you worry. But Game Time gives you these amazing experiences. Hopefully no foul balls to the face or anything, but great experiences. Game Time will give you. Red Sox this week are home against Toronto, and tickets are very cheap. $13 for Monday night at the low, $14 on Tuesday, and then $17 on Wednesday. So if you want to go to a midweek game, freshen April up a little bit, I think that's a great idea. Bruins have 2 home games left, so there will certainly be flash deals, which is the big thing over at Game Time, which is what I love. They also have Game Time picks. Curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, and theater. There's all-in pricing. Toggling this feature shows the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. Seat views, so you can know whether to bring a glove or not to a baseball game. What if you brought a hockey glove to a baseball game, like a goalie mitt? You're up there, like catch a home run with a goalie mitt. That would go so mega viral on everything. I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, dude, it'd be all over the place. Bot Down would take 14 of your videos.
Oh my God. Yeah. Bleacher Report would take like 100 of them.
Yeah.
It'd be great. Lowest price guarantee or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. And of course, Game Time ticket coverage. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Connor, what time is it?
Game time.
It is, in fact, game time. So, Geeky continues to roll as well. Anybody that Pastrnak works with on the top line just continues to roll. Geeky had 5 points against Carolina, scores against Buffalo. We've talked a lot about him this year of what is his future. He's shooting around 20%, which is nerve-wracking. Typically, you're not shooting around 20%. For reference, I think Alex Ovechkin for his career is shooting around like 13 or 14%, and that is the greatest goal scorer in the history of the league. So that is something to keep in mind, but I do genuinely think he works with Pastrnak. As we've said in previous years, he can play anywhere. What is his mean? Is he a guy that can safely get you 20 goals a season and 40-something points? Or is he way off? Is he going to plummet next year and he's someone who, you're going to get 12 goals and 29 points out of? I think, he's proven that he can play up there. And I think where they're heading as a team, as a franchise, is sort of to the middle. If they're lucky, still going to be a fringe competitor in the next couple years. And he's a guy that works with Pastrnak. I like him. I know that we've kind of talked about sort of there might be some sticker shock with him this summer, given that the market's going to go up, the salary cap's up, and he had such a good season. But have we seen enough to safely say, like, all right, Geeky could be a top 6 fixture for the next year or two?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of tough to like map out what exactly you can project him to be the next 5 years. But yeah, you look at the way he's playing, I think, with Pastrnak, and I think that's the thing, right? If he's with Pastrnak, I don't know if he's going to be a 30-goal guy, but I think he'd be consistently a 20-goal guy that can chip in and do the little things necessary. I know I've said it countless times, but it's like Chris Kunitz, right? Like a guy that by himself, what is he, a middle 6 player? Like, what is he away from? Well, you don't have to worry about it because he plays so well with the superstar talent. You keep them together and you get max value out of that line, right? You don't have to like necessarily, if you're the Bruins and you're trying to build up your roster in the years ahead. It's almost like, yeah, you could add another star player to play with Pastrnak on a line, or you can spread out that offense. And that's what made kind of the 22-23 Bruins so effective, right? Is they had so many elite players all across the lineup that could drive play by themselves. So having someone like Geeky who's not flashy but produces and does the little things well with a guy like David Pastrnak has a lot of value. It just depends on just what the market is going to be now. Because as you said, I think it's going to be a lot of sticker shock of, I think you're looking at least $5 million for the guy. Like
I think at this
five
point,
and a half, 6.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it's coming around like 5.5, 6.
So, and again, that's part of like just the price of doing business now with the way the cap is growing. But yeah, I think the question is the Bruins have seen what Geeky can do at Pastrnak. And I think they like what they see there and project him as a guy that you could staple to Pasternak's line for the long haul and be a, again, 20, 25 goal player that does little things well and doesn't necessarily always reflect on the score sheet. And also I think a guy that fits the mold of like, can do little things right, has a little bit more physicality than maybe you initially let on, had a good playoff last year, was physical, scored some big goals in that playoff run. So has value there. It just depends on if you are bumping him off the line, what exactly is he? Because if he can just be a middle 6 player that can give you 20 goals and 40 assists wherever you put him, you'll take that, right? Like that's a guy that you just need NHL bodies at this point, and he brings a lot of value that way. But as you said, if he completely regresses and all of a sudden we're looking at it next year and you bump him down the lineup to spread the wealth offensively and you get to February and he's got 9 goals and 21 points, you're like, oh, shit. All right, well, I don't want to pay that much for that. So it's going to be really fascinating to see just one, what the contract's going to be for him, especially as an RFA, but factoring in just the way the cap is changing. And then also just how the Bruins view him. Do they think he is a legit top 6 weapon, or is he just a middle 6 player that they like, but we're also not going to break the bank for? It's going to, whenever that deal does get struck, whether it's a long-term deal, bridge deal, arbitration, what have you, I couldn't tell you right now as to what that final price is going to be because he's such a unique player in a unique situation with a lot of different factors involved.
And I often hear people say, if you're a cup contender, Morgan Geeky's not in your top 6. He can't be playing with Pastrnak if you're a cup contender. And it's like, well, they're not going to be cup contenders anytime soon. They're not going to be. The next couple of years, I don't see a path to cup contention unless you have a Capitals-like year where everybody just, even the misfits that you have overperform and everybody's just firing on all cylinders, then maybe you are, but that's hard to bank on. And I think the realistic view of the next 2 to 3 years that I keep kind of putting forward is, they should be in and around the wild card spot. They might make the playoffs one year and miss the other 2, but kind of, they'll be competitive down the stretch at least. And that's where Geeky helps you. Geeky's a guy that you can rely on. He works with Pastrnak, keeps him, I assume, happy. And you can win games like that. Not saying you're going to win a cup. Now, the question will be if he gets a 5 or a 6 year deal, in years, I imagine 4, 5, and 6 of that deal, that money would look cheaper and Geeky probably would not be on the top line with Pastrnak anymore. Or maybe he does progress into that. I don't really project him like that. I project him to more work with Pastrnak this next year or two and then sort of fall back into the middle 6 as guys sort of develop and different trades may present themselves or whatnot. But I'm very curious to see what Geeky gets. I'm with you on what he could get. Another guy I think we have not talked about really at all this year for his next contract in RFA is Mason Lohrei. Mason Lohrei is a pending RFA, does have the most points among all defensemen on the team, also a minus 40. And you and I are not big on plus minus. There's a lot of flaws with it. Doesn't show the full picture. You can be on the ice for a couple seconds and puck goes in and it's like, oh damn, I had nothing to do with it. Just like you can be on the ice for a little bit and the goal goes in for you and you're like, I had nothing to do with that either. So there are little quirks with that, but minus 40 is pretty terrible, man. Like that's indicative of someone who is not very good in their own zone. And I think there is obviously the one side of it where it's like, yeah, Lohrei's played a lot more than you normally would in your first full pro season. And, he doesn't have a McAvoy or a Hampus Lindholm to help him out. He doesn't have Carlo right now. But minus 40 is still bad, man. That's hard to defend.
It's not great. Yeah. And yeah, that's the same thing with Geeky. Like, what exactly is that next contract going to be? Is that more of a bridge? Is it like
that feels like a bridge? Lohrei feels like a 2 or 3 year deal.
Right. Because again, like I think you see the potential, but what exactly is he? Is he a guy that can solve those defensive issues and can be a top 4 player in due time? Right. Like it's kind of like how Krug, I think at one point it's like, oh, this guy is going to be a third pairing sheltered power play asset. And that's all he's going to be. You take the flaws, and not saying that he became in the running for Norris, but I think by the end of his career is solid in his own, like wasn't a liability, I wouldn't say, in his own end.
No, I agree with you.
Guy,
he was reliable with Carlo. They balance each other out great.
Yeah, and so if Lohrei can follow a trajectory like that, then yeah, I think there's more room to grow there. And the Bruins maybe don't want to hand him that money now, but if he can take those steps forward, I think they want to see that. But by giving him a bridge deal, it gives you a chance to just get more tape on the guy and see where exactly that ceiling is, because maybe he is more of a third pairing. You limit his minutes, give him a lot of power play time, shelter him, and yet you try to focus on the strengths and deal with some of the shortcomings in his defensive game as well. So you still like the potential. You still like the skill set. It's been a tough year. Again, he's been put in a tough spot where kind of on an island with the way the decor is, that you're just kind of getting punched in the face repeatedly every single game. So it's tough, but a guy that I think the Bruins still, have high hopes on in terms of just what you can, tap into as far as his potential. It's just ironing out some of those things. And I think, bridge deal gives them more of a chance to, give him a little bit of a pay bump, but also gives them more time to assess where he is going to be in another couple of years.
I was going to say, I think in the next 2 to 3 years, you're going to see that, can he be responsible enough in his own zone to be a top 4 guy? Or as you said, is he someone who's a third pairing defenseman? I also wonder, I assume they're going to have a new coaching staff next year. Again, that's something we can get into later in the offseason as well. But I wonder what the plan is there. Is there going to be a coach that comes along, a D coach, who sort of figures something out with him, taps into something new? Because it's interesting because I'll see Lohrei play in front of the net and he is big and he has a great stick in the offensive zone, but he really struggles covering the front of his own net. And you can see him trying. He's trying to cut off passing lanes. He's trying to line himself up with the post when a guy's behind the net. It just ain't working. And I just wonder, how much of that is Leach trying to teach him different techniques? Can a new coach teach him better ones in future seasons? Because again, his offensive game is fully there. He's fearless with the puck, and I think that's what you want. And he's a good distributor at the top of the point. But then you get into his own zone and coverages and physicality and using your stick to break up plays and take away passing lanes like Carlo did for so many years. And I'm not saying that he needs to be Brennan Carlo, because I think that's completely unfair. But it's still not great. Still not great. Alex Ovechkin, .895, new leading goal scorer in the history of the league. Do you have any big thoughts on Ovechkin and sort of the last couple years, like his time? Because my whole thing is I think in the last 20 years, which is the time Ovechkin's been playing, outside of McDavid, for the full 20 years, McDavid came in, and yes, McDavid might be a little more electrifying, a little more watchable. But growing up, there was nobody more must-watch, electrifying, exciting, polarizing than Ovechkin. And I think ultimately he was incredible. He's been incredible for the league, and he's been a treat to watch.
Yeah, no, I mean, I always like athletes that have like their one move that they kind of have, and it's just, it's coming and you can't do anything about it. It's like Mariano Rivera threw one cut fastball as a Taya Correa, and no one could friggin' hit it, or it would saw off your bat if you tried to, if it jammed you in on the hands. And the same with Alex Ovechkin. You know where the shot's coming from. He's just chilling there. He's
Did you read Dom Luszczyszyn's piece in The Athletic on Monday about Ovechkin scoring? It was very interesting on that was his office, but there were so many different, be below the dot or above it, or like all these different areas, and just how he would find ways to get open. I found it fascinating. I think he almost scored 300 of his goals from that one little area.
Yeah, and so for a guy that gifted, that it's coming, he's just posted up on the power play like a Sims character, just waiting there for the puck to get over to him. It's also, I think, fitting that he just like absolutely bombs one for his record setting goal. He's just hanging back a little bit, like jumping in on the play, gets that feed and just blasts it home against Sorokin. But no, it's a testament to a player that just has just been a cheat code his whole career, and a guy that has just been, entered the league with a lot of hype and then made good on it. Between it's like the tumbling goal he had, was his first or second year with the Capitals, that everyone had saved on like the early YouTube page, or you'd watch that all the time. To just
try to recreate it in practice, like
exactly,
almost break your neck.
To just a guy that's been automatic offensively, and it's one of the where you try to look at the math involved to break that record, and it's like, you look at the years involved, the consistency you have to hit, especially in this league, this game. It's one, if you're starting from scratch, you're looking at it being like, all right, no one's going to reach that, right? Like, it's, the math just doesn't work for a player. And for him to break that and have a chance to maybe hit 900, it just shows just what a transformative, impactful player he is, and a guy that's given a lot to hockey, and is someone that you look at all those players that came up to the early 2000s between him and Crosby and the hype involved with them. I would say he's made good on that hype. He's just an incredible player.
A little bit, yeah. I also think it's interesting, like, people keep saying like, oh, Crosby, and it's like, Crosby's the better all-around player. No one's debating that. But this is Ovechkin's thing. Ovechkin is the greatest goal scorer in the history of the league. Like, that's his thing. It doesn't mean he's the best player ever. It doesn't mean he's the GOAT, but he's a legend, and he's clearly the best goal scorer ever. Another thing I found interesting was, and then Dom kind of dove into this, was that 2012-2013 season with Adam Oates as his coach. That was the first year where he really, Oates really put him in that position of, you're not going to just bomb down the rush and skate through two defensemen and score because you're getting older. Because this came off of like 2 years where I think he had like 32 and 38 goals.
They kind of dipped a little bit, and people were like, oh, what a great run. He's going to go to the Hall of Fame. But, that peak stretch he had was unbelievable. No, he kind of got his second wind.
That was it. And it was just, you're going to work smarter, not harder. And that's when the whole Ovechkin's office kind of became born. The one-timers, the catch and release wrist shots, all that stuff. So I found that fascinating. Another thing I found interesting, the NHL put out a thing, never say never, projected season to score 895th goal at the current pace. Crosby's at 2032-33. I'm going to have to say I don't think that's probably going to happen. Austin Matthews, though, 2034-35. That's not out of the realm of possibility. Leon Draisaitl, 2036-37. McDavid's 2037-38. Pastrnak, 2037-38 as well. He would be 42. I'm not going to say never, but I don't know. I don't know if that's in the cards.
If he's playing at this level that he is right now, and they actually get some talent around him next year, who knows? Maybe he'll have another couple of 60-goal seasons on deck. You never know.
Maybe. Well, it's kind of like, how Buchagras called the Ovechkin thing in like 2010. Like, maybe we need to get ahead of it and be like, Pastrnak in the 2038 season is going to set the new goal scoring record. He's going to beat Austin Matthews, who overtook it in 2035, and boom, clip it.
Listen, Evan, we're already manifesting Jimmy Haggs to the Bruins. Like, yeah,
Jimmy Haggs.
Don't sell yourself short in terms of making these projections and them working out. When we get to 2037, we're recording episode 2481 of Bruins Beat. Don't say we didn't predict this way back when.
It'll be fun when we go back when this is like about to happen. We're like, where did we say this? What episode?
Yeah, I wish we should have.
Season?
Yeah, what was that one terrible year the Bruins had? Hopefully that one write-off season where everything went wrong. That we'll look back on it that way, but we'll see.
We should just make the headline of this podcast like David Pastrnak will
break Ovechkin's record. Yeah.
In 2038. I think maybe we should do that. Connor, what can the people look forward to from you at the Globe and Boston.com in these final couple games?
Yeah, you can read my stuff over the Globe and Boston.com. We have covered every step of the way this Bruins season, as you said, over these final 4 games. And more importantly, going into the offseason where there's a lot to do, a lot to cover between the draft, free agency, trades, coaching search potentially, all that stuff. So we'll have you covered every step of the way this summer over at Boston.com and the Boston Globe. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it these days, you can at Conor Ryan _93.
Go do all that. That's Conor Ryan. I'm Evan Marinofsky. Bruins Beat listeners, have a great rest of your week.